Opinions are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Our topics are large and small. When you really need to know, we are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome to the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here in AM 830 WCRN. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. You can also text us at 617-297-8388, text line up and running. If you email text Joe on the radio at gmail.com, it appears on the same screen in real time here in the studio. We're also live streaming on my social media platforms. That's Twitter and Facebook at Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. Facebook, Twitter, like I said, also YouTube, The Joe Mangiacotti Show, my LinkedIn page. And we're on Twitch TV at Joe M Show. Why on Twitch TV? I don't know, but we're on Twitch TV with all the gamers who do their thing. All right. And don't forget, we're live streaming on the TuneIn app all the time. As a matter of fact, you can listen to WCRN anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the TuneIn app. If you don't have it downloaded on your device, punch in WCRN, hit that like button, the favorite, so it's easy to find. And I actually listen to the North Star music at night and set the timer to fall asleep to that. It's great, but I like that old music too. Being in this business for a long time, the first jobs in radio were DJing and running the overnight at Music of Your Life stations and all kinds of different shifts that you did. So I got a real appreciation for all kinds of music doing that over the years. All right, we got a lot going on. 148th running of the Kentucky Derby this weekend. Tomorrow is the Lilies, right? They run the Lilies. That's all the female horses. Are we allowed to say that anymore? Female horses? How does that work? Anyway, Kentucky Derby's a big deal. COVID, affected it the last couple of years. Dressing up the hats, right? The hats are a big deal at the Kentucky Derby. Women have very elaborate hats that flowers and layers. It's something else. And the men also, they wear derbies. They wear fedoras, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, you'll see a lot of that going on this weekend. Well, let's get into other situations we got going on. Again, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Reminding you, I'm solo, so there's no producer, so it's going to be a cold call. If you call in, you'll hear some clicks and whatever, and I'll just say, hey, what's up? Biden's out there. He's attacking all the Republicans, right? Look, with this administration, everything is everybody else's fault except for theirs. It's the Republicans and the mega agenda, the ultra mega agenda. Everyone else's fault but theirs. And they're totally missing the mood of the country. It doesn't seem that anyone in the White House or within the administration has their finger on the pulse of the nation, does it? I said this the other day. They need somebody who's outside, and maybe it would be a good idea to put a Republican on the payroll just to hang around to say, hey, that probably won't be taken the way you think it will be taken. I mean, look at the hiring of Nina. I mean, nobody said you're really going to put as the executive director of the Misinformation Governance Board a woman who peddles in mega misinformation, a woman who was pushing the Russian collusion hoax, who was telling us that the laptop wasn't real, right? This is a woman who lied and dispersed misinformation at every turn. What credibility does this woman have? None whatsoever, right? She's a joke. She's a TikTok joke, one of those people. I'm sorry. I have no respect for her in that position. I have no respect for her, period. But the point is, they need somebody to be able to, say, hey, guys, let's take a beat here. That's not really going to be taken the way you think it's going to be taken. Now, I made a reference to that show Martin Sheen was in, West Wing. They, in their show, they actually had this Ainsley character who was a female Republican, and they pulled her out every once in a while for that purpose, to ask them what's the Republicans' response going to be to this. They need one of those. Now Biden's out there calling it the ultra mega agenda. What is going on with this guy? What is going on with this guy? Look, his poll numbers are horrible. The feeling of the direction of the country is it's only getting worse. We know this. We're looking at, look, we all are putting gas in the car. We're looking at it's spring, and we're not dealing with having to, buy oil to get through the winter, but that's coming, guys. That's coming, right? When you're at $6 and $7 a gallon of heating oil, and you're into 4 digits to fill your tank up. Now, some people are going to be able to survive that and adjust to it, and they'll give something else up. I always say every time gas goes up in anything, right? Oil, gas, diesel, any of those things. I have always said this, folks. It's so simple. I don't understand how people don't understand it. But then, of course, you find out the part of the agenda of some people are to make sure that you put the screws to people. Remember the Baker guy who got caught on the Zoom call talking about now we really have to put the screws to the everyday person. They want the pain at the pump to control your behavior. And doesn't that piss you off a little bit? That's a little insulting that they want to manipulate you. But there's going to be a point that we come to the winter months and you're going to have, whether they're elderly and Social Security or just your paycheck to paycheck hardworking family, that are facing heat or food. And that's not hyperbole, right? It's going to cost you $1,400 to fill your tank to get through the winter, and you still got all the other expenses, and it's costing you another $40, $50 a week for your commute that you have to take to go to work. And the jobs numbers came in a little lower than expected, but we still have 61% who disapprove of how Joe Biden's handling this economy. And even 36% of Democrats said that we're not in good shape. And we can see the distancing of Democrat candidates from Joe Biden. It's funny, right? You watch some of these interviews when you've got, and it's usually a Fox, anchor, talking to a Democratic candidate and asking straight out, do you want Joe Biden beside you in the campaign? And they've got their standard answer down. Have you noticed this? I'm the face of this campaign. We accept everybody who supports us, but I'm the face. I don't want anyone else to be the face. So that moved through the Democratic candidate base pretty quickly. Now, the work participation rate went down, not up, and that's also telling. We got 11.5 million jobs that are available, and the number of people participating are going down. So what's up with that? Where are we going with that, folks? People don't want to work. How are they living? I don't know. But Joe Biden is out of touch. His administration's out of touch, or maybe they are. Because these are the only two options we have, folks. Remember, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. There are only two choices here. The administration and those managing and surrounding it are either incompetent and don't know what they're doing and don't understand the mood of the country. They don't understand how much damage they're doing, that they're just totally out of touch with everything. Or they do, and everything is by design. Everything they're doing with purpose for an end result And that, to me, is the scary of the two that could be going on there, right? Absolutely. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Good afternoon, Joe Mangiacotti Show. Who do I got?
Hello.
Yeah. Who do I have? Who's on? Who do I have today?
You have Joe. Good
Hey,
morning,
Joe. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for covering this stuff, and thank you for taking my call.
Very welcome.
Democrats for the last 4 or 5 years have felt entitled, Joe, entitled to break laws, to counter the norms for their end result. They've messed up the court and the jury system. They've trashed the idea of being innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
They've taken away the right of to be charged and have a speedy trial.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that they've
Joe,
crossed off the list in their pursuit of Donald Trump and his supporters.
Well, I agree 100% that they have been so wrapped up in the Trump derangement syndrome and what this guy does that they have sacrificed so many other things. And what I see on the left is, first of all, I've noticed they don't accept results that they don't want, right? So they don't accept elections that don't go their way. They don't accept court rulings that don't go their way. A matter of fact, Schumer, right, 2 years ago, stormed down to the court and threatened the justices to rule his way by name, rule the way I want you to rule, or else. Now, and I was going to get into this a little bit later in the show, but we'll do it about the threat to the justices and security. But you're right. We have district attorneys that are not prosecuting the way that they should prosecute. They're backed a lot by different George Soros organizations. But what is it? And you got to say to those people, Joe, you elected these ding-dongs. What are you going to do about it, right? You've got Castro on a recall, I think 200,000 signatures already or something like that. But the police, after being defunded and defeated and demoralized, then they know they do their job, and guess what? They're not even going to prosecute these people. Look what happened to the guy that attacked Dave Chappelle. Hey, Joe, we're against the clock. I don't have a lot of say in the breaks. They happen when they happen. Thank you for the call. I always appreciate it. All right, folks, the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Stick with us. Back in a moment.
Don't put mercury in the trash. Don't put mercury in the trash. Fluorescent lamps, thermometers, thermostats. These could all contain mercury, so let's dispose of them properly. Don't put mercury in the trash. Don't put mercury in the trash. Know your products with mercury, so you can dispose of them properly. Mercury is harmful to human health and the environment. To learn what products in your home may contain mercury and where to safely dispose of them, please contact your local Board of Health or Department of Public Works or visit keepmercuryfromrising.org. Know your products with mercury so you can dispose of them properly.
Visit keepmercuryfromrising.org because together we can keep our environment safe. Brought to you by Win Waste Innovations. Performance for the planet.
Shining Rock Golf Club of Northbridge is a shining example of excellence in golf. Shining Rock Golf Club's highest priority is your golf experience, and their award-winning 18-hole luxury and challenging golf course will deliver. And for shining moments and memorable events, the Shining Rock Golf Club of Northbridge delivers again. Plan your next tournament, fundraiser, or corporate event at Shining Rock Golf Club. Events and budgets of all sizes are welcome. Shining Rock Golf Club Pro Shop, Driving Range, and Bar and Grill are fully open for the season. For the very best in golf, with friendly, experienced service, visit Shining Rock Golf Club of Northbridge, a shining example of excellence in golf. Call 508-234-0400. That's 508-234-0400. On the web at shiningrock.com. Shining Rock Golf Club of Northbridge.
Didn't you get my text?
Sorry, I was driving.
Don't text and drive.
show, Mangiacotti show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, reminding you that we're here Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 1 o'clock, and still Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. for that Sunday morning talk block. Mike Wade, Peter Blute, and Jerry Doherty jumps in there around 9:30 for a while with Peter Blute. It's a great way to spend your Sunday morning listening to AM 830 WCRN, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Let me jump right to the phones. Who do we have? Good afternoon.
Hi, Ken from Bolton.
Hey, Ken. What's on your mind today, sir?
You know, Joe, we thought we'd seen a lot of the bad and the ugly from the Dems until this week arrived. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I got to tell you something. This reaction is nuts because, and I said this the other day, I think you were listening. Look, folks, this leak, and let's be clear, the person responsible for this is not a hero. They're not a whistleblower. They're a criminal. And they did something that, just hasn't been done to the Supreme Court in the history of the court. And they did it for a reason or multiple reasons. But what they let out, Ken, isn't worth the paper it's written on. It's from February. It's a doodle, as far as I'm concerned. It carries no weight. It just tells you how one justice was thinking of an argument. And in a matter of months, Ken, right? These things are gone back and forth. They're negotiated between the justices. I'll sign off. I'll agree on the majority if you put this in or take that out. So what they actually release that actually is the decision from SCOTUS, the real decision, will probably not even be anywhere near that. It won't resemble it at all. And you really should hold your water until you know what the deal is. And you see these guys, women and men going nuts out there, Ken, and they don't even know what it means. Because even
they haven't read it in many cases.
No, they haven't read it, and it doesn't. And this is, I was going to get into this. It's in my notes about the polls, about what people think that amazing how many people think that it makes abortion illegal. It outlaws it doesn't do that at all, folks. All it says, if we're going from this draft, is we're going to put this decision in the laws about abortion back to the states. After all, states are supposed to be where everything is done, on the local and the states. That's how it was designed to be in this country. And yeah, does that mean that some states have different laws? See, and we come to this abortion issue, Ken, isn't it majority? Let's not talk about the fringe people who think same day abortion, right? Birthday abortion. And then you got the real nut jobs who say up to 2 weeks after birth, you could still abort the fetus. It's not a fetus. It's a human being. Okay, living on their own. This is asinine. But the point is, most people agree abortion should be allowed. It comes to the timeline, doesn't it? First trimester, second trimester, third, 8 weeks, 15 weeks. That's where we get into the debate, is really mostly about when do you have a cutoff time. And a lot of women don't know. At 6 weeks, they don't even know they're pregnant yet. I mean, that happens on a regular basis. We also have much different science today than we did in 1973, don't we? As far as the viability of a fetus outside of the womb much earlier than it was 49 years ago. We have a lot more science about fetal pain, fetal consciousness, right? These are important factors in the discussion, aren't they?
Absolutely, Joe. But what I find amazing is all these threats that the left is throwing out. Oh, they're going to do this. Before you know it, they're going to ban contraception.
What about the president saying LGBTQ students won't be allowed to sit with straight students?
Exactly.
Where does that come from? Like, how does that thought form in that mush of a mind? Or who put that into him? because he seems to be, you put something in and hopefully he regurgitates it out the way they meant it to be. But where does that thought? How do you get there? I would love to see that flow chart, how you get to that. What about they're going, you got Joe Behar. Oh my God, that woman is stupid. When they say, okay, the next thing is going to be interracial marriage. Where do you get that from? How do you, and wouldn't Clarence Thomas might have an issue with that, considering he's married to a white woman?
Of course.
I mean, how do they make these leaps?
The public opinion has evolved massively in the last 70 years on that topic, to the point where I think it's accepted by more than 80% of the public in polls. I mean, it's not even close. It's absurd that such a legislation would even come about. It's ridiculous. But what I'd like to do, Joe, is let's get people acquainted of Massachusetts law. Are you familiar with Massachusetts law?
Actually, I'm not. So if you can share with everybody a little bit what it says in Mass.
And I wasn't that familiar, but then the leftists are boasting of how wonderful the Massachusetts law is. Well, there was a Roe Act that was passed the past couple of years. And I do kind of remember them talking about that. You know how the news media, everything left is, oh, isn't it wonderful? But they don't really tell you what's inside.
Oh, yeah. They do that with all the bills, right? Yeah.
Well, do you know the critical number on the Roe Act?
What is
40 weeks.
40 weeks. Really?
Whoa. Aren't a lot of babies born before 40 weeks?
Oh, a fetus is very viable at 40 weeks.
Some not even being viable. I'm just talking literally for each birth that happens every day.
Yeah.
I think it's around 50-50 that are around 40 weeks, because that's about normal.
That might be on the preemie side, but like by a week, right? Or 2 weeks?
Well, no, it's not preemie at all.
I know. Okay, but 40. So we're getting to the 40. Right, we're getting to that point where we have people who think that abortion, up until well into the third trimester, and then the same day abortion, that turns my stomach.
I asked a simple question, Joe. If a baby were born today at 39 and a half weeks, and 2 days later someone killed it, would Maura Healey prosecute? I have my doubts. And somebody may think that's awful what I just said.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. If they set the line at 40 weeks and something what I just described happened,
yeah,
I don't put it beyond them.
But if that child came out and is life and took a breath and is breathe, that's a human being. And now the Constitution, right? We have to protect that life. That's why I say this up to 2 weeks after birth, that's murder, folks. That's not
infanticide.
Absolutely, 100%.
And why do you think the local state senator Chandler sponsored this? She was copycatting, mimicking what New York had done. See, we think, oh, geez, New York can't beat us in being ultra liberal, so we basically, because that's what Cuomo was doing, and it was made national news. This is borderline infanticide. And it looks like we copycatted it. So are we really that proud of that, Massachusetts?
Look, I think that as science has advanced in fetal care, and we know a lot more about when it feels pain, when it is able to think and is conscious. The thing here is the science is also advanced to the day after pill, right? And that, what is it, RU 486 or something? If you're in a situation and you're practicing safe sex and all of that, and you think that there might be something, don't you think it's kind of your responsibility? It's not like it's hard to get a pregnancy test, right? And they are so much more accurate today than they ever been, and that you have this window to address the situation very early on, that it shouldn't be an issue. I can't understand how.
And Joe,
yeah,
Joe, on that issue you just brought up, I fully support it being available over the counter, because you know what? They've done studies compared to, believe it or not, compared to the COVID vaccine, it's safer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Less side effects.
Yeah. They're
makes you wonder why both sides haven't grabbed onto this and say, well, we don't need this barbarical treatment. Abortion's disgusting. We should be promoting the front end, the morning after pill, and the back end, adoption. And yet we never hardly hear the word adoption anymore. Instead, we're talking about a 40-week.
Yeah.
Oh, this is awful. And what does it take to kill a child at 40 weeks? You have to jab a rod in their head and suck their brains out.
Yeah. No, they're baby parts. And I know people start to freak out when you bring up the topic, because it was Project Veritas they just are incredible investigative reporting. And they had all that video and audio about these Planned Parenthood shops there selling the baby parts, right? They're aborting these fetuses, but they have hearts and livers, and they have to rip this child apart.
Joe, they sell the body parts.
As I'm telling you,
the science.
Yeah. The Project Veritas blew that open, and they got attacked for it, and they got they tried to prosecute them, and a matter of fact, wasn't it Kamala Harris when she was DA? Didn't she go after a reporter who broke a story? There was I'd have to go back and look at the notes, but there was something about her not paying attention to the story that was broken, but going after the reporter on the story. I'll find what that is and bring it up again, but that was crazy. But we are coming up to a break, Ken, so I'll have to let you go. Thanks, man. All right, folks, we're going to take a break in a minute here and then finish the second half of the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I want to get in a little bit about Mayorkas and the DHS secretary here, about the people coming to the southern border, those numbers, and talk a little bit about the fact that these protests, right, they're putting up the barriers around the Supreme Court that they used at the Capitol, and now they've had to put security at the justices' homes. Who would have thunk? That is absolutely crazy. And they talk about everybody, right? Jen Psaki, everybody has a right to protest. Yeah, Jen, it says peaceful protests in the Constitution. Go look it up. You have the right for assembly and peaceful protests. And I've said it before about going to people's homes, and I can't tolerate that. That should be off limits on all accounts. Back in a moment, guys.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. We've got the clouds sticking around all day long. Now, it's not going to be as warm or bright as yesterday, but we still have highs in the lower 60s, which is pretty typical for this time of the year. I hope you're set, because it's going to be cool, it's going to be cloudy, it's going to be breezy and raw as we head into Mother's Day weekend. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
Hey everybody, Ryan Maloney here from It's the Liquor Talking, letting you know that you can hear us Saturday mornings at 11, but also at our new time, weeknights, right after Howie Carr at 7 p.m. It doesn't stop there. Randall and I are going to stick around and host North Star Music after the show. So join us for New England's only show about wine and spirits, and then pour yourself a glass of your favorite adult beverage. Enjoy Randall and I as we listen to your favorite music on the North Star.
You just may have the best podcast anywhere.
Blah, 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 blah.
But who knows it exists? Hello? Get your podcast to broadcast on radio. Create a podcast. Improve your podcast sound with professional production and editing. Record your podcast in a real radio studio. Visit podcasttobroadcast.org today. Get your podcast on the radio with podcasttobroadcast.org. Focus on your health with the Frankie Boyer Show, weekdays at 2 on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN.
Fresh and familiar New England hits every evening at 7 on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, AM 830, WCRN. Don't forget, you can watch us on the Facebook page and Twitter at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, YouTube page, LinkedIn page, and even Twitch TV. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Before I get into Mayorkas and the border, let's go to the phones. Who do we got? You're on the Joe Mangiacotti Show.
Yes, Mark. How are you?
Hi, Mark. You look marvelous.
You look marvelous as well. I'll make this brief. I hope the person that did this at the Supreme Court leaked the drafts to Politico. I hope they're proud of themselves if they, as a result of doing this, trigger a constitutional crisis in this country. I hope you're proud of yourself, whoever you are.
Yeah, good point.
And the second point I want to make is this. Monday, they released that the news that the drafts have been leaked to Politico Monday. Here we are Friday. I haven't heard nothing, have you? I thought the Chief Justice, what's his name, Roberts?
Yeah.
Ordered an investigation. What the heck is taking so long?
Yeah, he said he directed the marshal to do an investigation and find the culprit. I think this is going to be a case that's never solved, Mark.
Why not?
I don't think they want the person who leaked. Either that, or if they do find him, they're going to spin it and call it. How long before they call him a whistleblower? Now, I don't even know how that fits in.
Who's they? Who's they? Who's conducting
The left.
this investigation? Who?
The left, as far as I'm concerned. And that's a good question. Yeah, I would like to know, and I'm sorry I don't know this, but I would like to know, because I didn't even realize the extent to which the Supreme Court had their own police department and marshals and so forth. But who are these people? Are these jobs? Are those, is that the job, right, that the brother-in-law, the ne'er-do-well relative gets the job?
Well, like being a trial court officer
Yeah.
here in Massachusetts.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they're all political
Yeah, I know
jobs.
exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Now, I'll just end with this. Politico is owned by a foreign entity. They're a subsidiary of a foreign company. That's very important.
Yeah.
That should be a case for the FBI.
Where is the FBI? in this?
Politico is owned by a company named Axel Springer. I believe they're out of Hamburg, Germany. So Politico is owned by a foreign entity. You would think that would bring in the FBI immediately.
Right, because doesn't this start to fall under disabling the government and insurrection and foreign interference? I mean, you start bringing in all of these kind of angle to this, and it gets very interesting, because this is destabilizing the process big time. And whoever this person is, and it makes me wonder, and I got into the investigation part of it the other day, but it makes me wonder who actually is behind it. Is it this a purely political move because they needed to gin up the Democratic base to lessen the onslaught that we're expecting in November?
The reason why I bring up the FBI, okay, because you're dealing with a company that's owned by a foreign entity.
Yeah, I get that.
That's who it was leaked. That's number one. And number two, if you lie to the FBI, that's potential jail time right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, good points. Valid points. But I agree 100%.
Have a good one. Have a good one, brother.
I agree 100%. Where is the FBI on this? Okay, great, Marshal, Chief Justice, you're going to assign this to the Marshal. Conduct an investigation. So, as a side note, as I just said, I'd like to know who that is and who makes up this police department at the Supreme Court. Are these career law enforcement people and coming out of academies with experience and all that, or are they political appointed jobs, hack jobs? What's the deal there? And where is the FBI in this? Now, as a result of all of this, right, we have protests. And as I said the other day, it comes out 9 o'clock on a Monday night. First thing in the morning, you got these organized protests with these very nicely made signs. Incredible how that was able to be done. Again, is there a secret print shop for that kind of stuff in the Capitol that we don't know about? Is that what Kamala Harris was thinking, why she thought Kinko's still existed or something? I don't know. But we have a serious problem when the safety and health and safety of justices and their family are at risk, that we have to put security people at their homes. And I said this going into the break. And I've talked about this back last year, over the last 2 years, when Antifa was out of control and they were showing up at congresspersons' homes. They even showed up at Tucker Carlson's house. And I'll say this again, and I know I got into a debate on the air with somebody about this, about, well, protests are allowed and all that. I say, no. Private residences should be off limits. When you start targeting, it changes from a peaceful protest and expressing what is the purpose of going to somebody's home, especially if you're going to Tucker Carlson's house when he's not there and just his wife and little baby are home. Or you go into the home of an elderly justice. The only purpose for that is to scare and intimidate. That's all. Going to a very residential area, and most of the time they're probably going to be very nice neighborhoods, and there aren't going to be a lot of commercial districts. They're going to be very nice residential areas. So showing up at their home, and they'll admit this, is to intimidate you and to scare you. And that's wrong. That's not in the spirit of free speech. It's not in the spirit of peacefully assembling. It just isn't, folks. And I have said this, and I'm going to maintain this, and no one's ever going to change my mind, that homes should be off limits. And when they show up at a justice's house or a congressperson's house, I think they should be arrested on those charges right there. Inciting, threatening. And if we don't have a law or something we can't charge them, let's get a law in the books for it. That is so wrong and unacceptable behavior. So now we have to put justices under beefed up security because of this. And this isn't right. And now we're seeing the barriers going up again. How do you think that looks to the rest of the world, where America, the land of the free and the brave, democracy, the epitome of democracy, where we pride ourselves in peaceful transition of power every 4 or 8 years, where we run our government by elected officials in a republic to represent us. And we got to do or use these tactics that are in third world countries or in those type of holes that Trump made reference to. It makes me very sad for the country. This is not today. I'm not talking about down the road here. Today isn't the country that I thought I was growing up in as a kid. It's not reflecting the behavior and the spirit of what was instilled into me as a child about how lucky I was to be born in America. And that was something in my house growing up that was actively talked about, and we were told that. And to see this behavior, it's horrible. And all these people, if you could get them to pause for a moment, take a breath, talk to them, and God hope they talk back to you like an adult, it would be a very interesting conversation when you ask them, okay, what is it that you're protesting? What are you upset about? What are you trying to achieve right now? And what are you going to do if it goes back to the states. And many have argued, right, for a very long time in law school classes, on talk shows, in the media, about whether R. V. Wade was actually a good decision to begin with, and whether it was really something that you could put as a constitutional right. It's not in the Constitution, and it's kind of invalid because of the third party part of it, so it shouldn't have really been a constitutional right. And now if it does come out and the court says, actually, this should go to the states, and the states make their rules. There are 20 states with trigger legislation already on the books. And trigger legislation just means that they are laws that have been sitting there, they're dormant unless something happens and something triggers them to come into play. And that would be a Supreme Court decision to revert it back to the states. These laws would go in, they would kick in, and they are different in all of the states. Now, Mark brought up about Massachusetts. I apologize. I should probably know that. I will study up on it. I should know what Massachusetts abortion laws are. Never thought to look them up until, of course, this past week, and just really haven't had time to do something like that. But I think it's important that we learn what Massachusetts is. And as I said, that the technology and the science has changed the arguments that would have been there in 1973. Right? They're just not going to work the same way. 508-871-7000. Let me go to the phones. Who's there?
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Tony, let me tell you this. We literally have less than a minute before break, so we can get going, and then you're welcome to hold on through the break, because I didn't want to just not take the call for a few minutes. So as long as you understand that,
No problem.
you don't have to do that. But what is it that's on your mind right now?
My question was, because I know John Roberts said they're gonna, send whoever the marshal after them. Is what the person did illegal? Because nobody said like what they did is punishable by
Yes.
10 years in
The
jail
short
or
answer.
whatever it is.
The short answer is yes. There is statutes on the book about taking government information and dispersing it and using it for other purposes. There are laws, there are crimes were committed by what this person did. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it would have been nice if like they didn't say that.
You're welcome to hold, Tony, but unfortunately, actually, we got a little time. All right, thank you, Tony. We'll be back.
Insurance Agency, a third-generation company located in Whitensville, with branch locations in Grafton, Southborough, Westborough, and Shrewsbury. We are a full-service independent agency offering all aspects of insurance to businesses, industry, and individuals. Stop in and see us at any of our locations for a free assessment of your insurance needs. Also, listen to WCRN on Friday mornings at 9:30 for our radio show.
Frankie Boyer has a brand new show. It's Cannabis Talk A to Z, an educational odyssey. Tuesday mornings at 10, right here on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN.
Looking to up your bourbon game? Larceny Wheated Bourbon is the key. It's an award-winning small batch bourbon made with more wheat for a smoother taste. Get caught in the act. Larceny Wheated Bourbon, Bardstown, Kentucky. 46% alcohol by volume. Think wisely, drink wisely.
I had been unable to hear conversation.
I was blaming my family whispering. I used to spend all the time saying, what?
If you or a loved one can identify with this, the hearing aid specialists Peter and Alex Lee at Professional Hearing on 33 Lyman Street in Westborough can correct or restore your hearing. Don't miss out on what you're not hearing. Call Peter and Alex Lee at 508-366-8686 or on the web at prohearinghealth.com.
The difference is amazing.
If you have a hearing loss and you don't have it corrected, you're losing out.
I would recommend Professional Hearing and Mr. Lee to anyone who experiences a hearing problem.
To find out if you have a hearing loss, call today, 508-366-8686, or go to prohearinghealth.com. Professional Hearing in Westborough. Schedule your free consultation now.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment of the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN, 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. It is a cold answer, folks. No producer answering it, so you'll just hear some clicks, and I'll say, hey, what's up? Who is it? So going into the break, Tony had the question, and a great question. Did this person actually commit a crime? Yes. Yes. I mean, think about it. Can you steal documents from the Attorney General's office and leak them to the press? Now, one goes, well, geez, there's a lot of leaking going around. Why is this illegal? Well, those others were. Nobody prosecuted him. I mean, Comey sat there in front of Congress and said, oh, yeah, I leaked this to a law professor who I know, could get it out. Nothing happened to him. So when the Chief Justice instructs the marshal to do an investigation, if and when they ever determine who this Jamoka is, they can be arrested, they can be charged. Will it happen? I think that they should be found, and they should throw the book at the person, and that they should absolutely do time. But when we have violent criminals, violent people committing violent acts on people just walking down the street, in the subway, on a stage performing, and they're not prosecuted, what is going on? Where are we going to end up in this country where there's no consequences for criminal behavior? And now, just getting back to the situation with these pro-abortion activists, right? Now they're also planning to show up at and protest at Catholic churches on Mother's Day weekend. So we got to be concerned about that now. So is this a practice in your house? Do you get up on Mother's Day? Do you go to church, make mom breakfast in bed and all of that? Now you've got to worry about this. So people going to church now have to be on edge. Think about that. You're going to church and you know that the protesters who are showing up are people who are not reasonable. They're not peaceful, right? Some of the most violent protests have happened in the pro-choice, pro-life arena on both ends, right? You have pro-lifers who have killed abortion doctors, murdered them. The abortion issue is responsible for a tremendous amount of violence. So now they're going to show up at Catholic churches on Mother's Day weekend. And they're calling, there's a group right there, they're calling it the Ruth Sent Us protest tour. As if Ruth Beta Ginsburg, she would not have supported this, for the record, folks, right? She never would have condoned this action. Because you're talking about the people on the court were her friends and colleagues. And Tononi Scala, they were best of friends, totally opposite on the scale of where they came in on decisions. But they spent time together. Opera, I think I heard or read in one article that they had opera in common or something. So she wouldn't be condoning this. She wouldn't be okay with going after her friends and colleagues. So how dare you call it the Ruth Sent Us? Where does that even come from? Especially since she has talked about it, it should be in the states anyway. So you're totally wrong appropriating RBG's name in this, okay? And we're back to the trying to intimidate and frighten those spouses, threatening judges, not acceptable. I spent a lot of time in courtrooms over my career as an investigator and having to testify. And I can tell you that normally if you threaten or try to intimidate a judge, it doesn't usually work out too well for you. I've seen that in firsthand. Not a great idea. And I would think it would be times 100 for Supreme Court justice. I really do. So, will this whole thing backfire? Will it? How's this going to play out? Because the Pelosi's and Schumers, right? This is great. They have something to gin the base up. They are trying to draw as much attention away from inflation, the southern border, right? The employment issues, right? The participation rate going down, so many jobs open. Just the disaster that is this administration. If they can make enough noise, and then start the scare tactics to lessen that tidal wave coming in November. If we can just scare everybody that they have to vote pro-abortion, pro-choice candidates, you gotta put Democrats in there. Maybe they can lessen the slaughter that's coming. Will this backfire? 66% of Americans think that, yes, this will outlaw abortion. That's the problem with this. That's the poll that they took. 66% of the people polled said, well, this is a horrible thing to outlaw abortion. You got Geraldo Rivera talking the other day, and he's reaching way back to the coat hanger thing. And that just isn't going to happen. That's just, come on, folks. There are Planned Parenthoods everywhere. There's medical facilities, doctors. There are laws that can do it. Yes. Are some people going to have to travel to another state maybe if there's at a certain point along? I don't know. Again, let's save that for another show, those details in that. But Fox poll showed 54% of Americans support banning of abortion after 15 weeks, except for in cases of health of the mother. 15 weeks. Also, a Gallup poll shows majority of Americans want to limit abortion to the first trimester. 28% said the second trimester, and 13% support a third trimester. A third trimester. That's a baby, folks, in the third trimester. So what does the poll mean? I mean, what does the decision mean? A lot of people don't understand it, and they don't get it, and that's going to be a big problem. Hey, quick, before we have to wrap up the Friday edition, just this whole thing with Secretary Mayorkas. He's there, and he got 3 Pinocchios, right, for his testimony the other day, because he's saying that the border is closed, right? It's not. We know that. So the fact checkers did come out. I mean, 3 Pinocchios. It's not accurate. It's not closed. So let's get that straight. And he talked about the enforcement of it. Well, first of all, DHS releases about 100,000 migrants per month. Think about that. 100,000 migrants they put out. And do you know that 1 in 6 disappear immediately? So they talk about these tracking. They're supposed to track in either by phone, internet app, or actually report to a immigration facility. Then they've got some people on the bracelet, right? The ankle bracelet. Now, Biden cut those detained by 2/3 to 55,000. And he tripled those that are out there opposed to Trump, right? Where Trump was detaining 50 to 60,000 people a month. And then we find out in the testimony the other day, right, that 42, I don't have the note in front of me, it was like 42 people on the terrorist watch list were discovered illegally crossing the border. And he's asked by Congress, Jim Jordan says to Secretary Mayorkas, well, where are they? You have them in custody, don't you? No, I can't tell you that, Congressman. We don't know where they are. You don't know where they are. You're the Secretary of DHS. You know that these are people on the terrorist watch list, and you can't answer to the Congress. And Jim Jordan, in a subsequent interview I saw him on, said he was apprehensive about asking that question because he figured he'd look kind of like an idiot because the secretary is going to say, of course we have him detained. What do you think? Naturally, we know exactly where they are. We have him in a facility, and he would have looked a little stupid, right? That's what he was. But to his surprise, the secretary has no clue where they are. And how are you the secretary and not know that? I mean, that's a scary aspect of this, folks. So you've got all these people, all these illegal immigrants coming over. They're giving them the phone. They're telling them to check in, but they really don't know where they are. So his three Pinocchios, absolutely, because you're not accurate. You're not truthful about the border being secured or closed. You don't know where these people are going. 1 in 6 out of 100,000 per month immediately disappear into the interior of the United States, and you don't know where they are. Then the proceedings. Do you know that it can take years for you to get to your hearing, your proceedings on the whether or not you can stay? And as far as asylum goes, only 13% of those are adjudicated in favor, because we're back to the safe haven, the safe port rule behind all that, right? And that is that you are supposed to take your safety in the first country that offers it to you. And if you travel through 4 or 5 countries to get to the United States, where's your argument in that? You could have been safe in Mexico. You could have been safe in Brazil. You could have been safe in many other countries before you got to the United States of America. All right, folks, that's going to wrap up the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Back Sunday morning.
This is Full Service Radio, AM 830.